Hello guys, today we're going to be talking about multiplying a univariate polynomial by a monomial with a positive coefficient. So breaking this down a second, we're talking about a univariate polynomial, so we know there's going to be one variable involved with multiple different terms, so that larger style of expression, and then by a monomial, so that's going to be just one of those terms. And we know that one term is going to have a positive coefficient sitting in front of it. So before we even do that though, I want to do a quick side quest. Okay? Just a quick reminder. If I were to ask you to multiply that out for me, we would go ahead and use our distributive property. Our distributive property tells us that we are going to distribute this coefficient in to each of our terms inside of the parentheses. So 2 times x will be 2x plus 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay? That's the first part of our side quest. Just a quick refresher on this distributive property. And second side quest that I want to do real quick, let's talk about x to the second times 4x to the third power. Thinking back to our product rule of exponents, we know that both of these terms here have the same base of x, and this guy just has that coefficient sitting in front. This guy also has a coefficient, an invisible one of 1. And thinking back to our product rule, we know that if they have the same base, that we are allowed to add these together. Okay, so we multiply those coefficients and then we add our exponents together. 1 times 4 is 4, and then x to the second times x to the third is going to be x to the 2 plus 3, which is 5. Okay, now that we have our brains warmed up, let's go ahead and jump right into an example of multiplying those monomials with that univariate polynomial. Let's first do 8z to the second times 9z to the fourth plus 10z. Might make a little more sense now why I had us do those quick warm-ups, because yes, there's a lot going on in this, but it is exactly the same as if I were asking you to distribute 2 times x plus 1. Exactly the same. We are going to start out by using that distributive property, and we're going to distribute this coefficient in. Let's start with just our first term, and I'm going to go ahead and write this all out in its entirety. So we are going to take that coefficient of 8z to the second power times this first term here of 9z to the fourth power, plus, we're bringing down that sign that's in our parentheses, plus, now we're going to distribute our coefficient to the second term. 8z to the second times that 10z. Okay, now we just multiply and use that product rule to evaluate, okay? So jumping down, our first 2 terms here, 8 times 9 we know is 72, and here's where we use our product rule. Z to the second times z to the fourth. We're going to add those exponents together. 2 plus 4 is z to the sixth power, plus, now let's jump into our second one, 8 times 10 is 80, and then z to the second power times z to, remember this is the invisible first power, 2 plus 1, we're going to end up with z to the third power, okay? And remember, we cannot combine these like terms because they do not have the same exponent, so therefore we are done, and we have successfully multiplied this univariate polynomial by this monomial with that positive coefficient of 8. Great job. Let's go ahead and do one more example. This time we are going to be multiplying 5w to the third by 8w plus 2w to the 8th power. Okay? We're going to treat this exactly the same. I'm going to write it out. First distribution, we're going to multiply in first that 5w to the third times our first term inside of that parentheses of 8w. Then bring down that plus sign from inside our parentheses. And I'm going to distribute in that second part now. 5w to the third times 2w to the 8th. Okay, and then we treat the rest of it exactly the same. Let's jump into this first part. 5 times 8 is 40. W to the third times w, remember there's that invisible 1 right there, w to the fourth, plus, jump into our second part, 5 times 2 is 10, w to the third times w to the 8th is, when we add those exponents together, 10w to the 11th power. So again, we successfully multiplied that monomial by our univariate polynomial. Awesome job, guys. See you tomorrow.